Hi guys, let's continue with the topic of the transforming UN, especially Security Council. I just today I'm kind of uh, a interesting lesson to show that artificial general intelligence is really important. I really want to have it today because I spend like more than 3 to 4 hours to just to do a little thing because I switched the carrier for my Wi-Fi system, and then with AT&T from Xfinity to AT&T with fiber. That little change is all takes me 4 hours to figure out because there's so many little things that fortunately I was following the AI chatbot and every step of the way, but still it takes me back and forth. So there's some problem with the printer, some problem with the windows connecting it. So it's a little things that finally get it work. And then I was just wondering, if we had AGI, then all you need to do is just tell them what to do, and then the machine will figure out. They'll do the try and errors, and then that'll be amazing. On the other hand, if we, AGI also means that a lot of work will be replaced by AI, but that's just it's all for the good of the humans, and then we may have to think about something like general income stuff like that. So, but it's just a sideline. Last time I talked about UN, especially the security councils that they basically create a power vacuum. So that power vacuum is actually created the opportunity for the U.S. because the U.S. has been the strongest country ever since World War II, and then because of that, because of the no match, they thought that the Soviet Union was strong enough, but actually it turns out it's not the case. The U.S. has been strong, the one and only, all along. But here's the problem: with the UN so much powerful. If you look at the supply and the demand, you see that a lot of country really depends on the U.S. Okay, and then just to imagine that U.S. was able to make like more than 200 aircraft carriers at the end of World War II, and a lot of countries don't even have one, don't even have plan, don't even had a plan to make aircraft carriers. So that's why many countries, including European countries, Western European countries, they kind of depend on the U.S. And that leads to problems. All for the most part, it's good. Okay, but then we have several problems. Number one is that the American exceptionalism. It's so easy to think about that. Okay, so that's one. Basically, people, implicitly, most of the time, implicitly, people, including a lot of American peoples, they just take for granted that this country is so different, so much better than other countries, and then we want to keep that way, right? And so that's one thing. The second problem that comes along with the U.S. being so strong than everybody else is that we have it's so easy to believe, to buy into the doctrine of might makes right. I mean, I mentioned it last time that the Stephen Miller, one of the Trump administration senior officers, he was basically saying that you know U.S. At the end of the day, you can talk about any moral values, you can talk about democracy, anything like that, ideology stuff, but at the end of the day, it's the physical forces that makes the country strong and then dominant. Okay, so that's actually it's so easy to think about this. Okay, I guess the best example is with Greenland. I'm not even talking about Venezuela because that country is kind of a lousy country to begin with, right? And even Iran. I mean, in the Midwest, I'm glad that I recently heard the news that uh, Israel and Iran exchanged messages through Putin, through Russia, saying that Israel would not launch the preemptive strikes against Iran. And, and I kind of I like that because, especially at this point, Iranian government is kind of a very weak. So it's easy for Israel to take advantage of that and maybe even encourage U.S. to do the air strikes or the preemptive strikes and then to do the regime changes and if anything possible. But so I'm glad that Israel is kind of back to its reasoning. Okay, but let's focus on the Greenland. This one is really that I am kind of having problem with. If you think about this, Greenland is a lot of people so far in the U.S. Many people focus on the point that Greenland was one of the, NATO, especially Denmark, right? So I tend not to, give it a believe that it's a big deal because, to be honest, there's no permanent friends, no permanent enemies. Everything can be changed over times. For the several decades after the World War II, the U.S. has been, you know, footing the bill for many countries, including European countries. And then I think if U.S. believe that it's sick of it, including Trump, they believe that you know, they're sick and tired of doing that, of defending for other countries. I think that, that's totally within Americans' right as a sovereign countries, right? But I really want to emphasize in, this international law. I think I mentioned that earlier that Stephen Miller is the one openly claimed that Americans don't have to say sorry, to the use of forces or to have the strong power, everything. It's funny that it reminds me of the movie, romantic movie called Love Story. The one of the most famous line is that if you love someone, that means you don't have to say sorry. So Stephen Miller basically says, put a different way, but he was saying that American doesn't have doesn't have to say sorry. However, I do want to say that there are reasons for even if the country is very strong. To be honest, I don't think to the end of the world, any country can be as strong as or even stronger than the U.S. I mean, China has been trying, but I don't think it pretty. China is some part when it comes to manufacturing, it's very strong. Maybe sometimes a few items they're even stronger than the U.S., but for the most part, um, for in terms of social justice, in terms of relationship between people, China is no match. In fact, China's trails behind the others. So this is so basically. However, the point that I want to make is that just because you have the power, that doesn't mean that you have the right to do that. Because we all know that one of the fundamental philosophy behind um, international law and behind any law is that you know when you have the power, it comes with a proportional liability or responsibility. So that's what make that's probably one of the strongest reason for us to go against might makes right, because if so the U.S. being the strongest country in the world, and that means that it has the responsibility to lead the world forward. Okay, so instead of do whatever, exaggerating, putting everything American first to the extreme. Um, you can certainly do that. I mean, that's pretty much to a certain extent that's what Trump is doing, and Trump administration. A lot of people are thinking about that way. But I'm just assuming. I'm just kind of surprised that nobody mentioned whenever come people talks about the Greenland. Always people talk about the what we threaten of the NATO. You know, now, nobody even, very few people talk about the violation of the international law. If you look at previously I said that the UN Charter has been emphasizing the armed attack. But if you look at the charter again, you see that the UN Charter specifically says all the things that basically Trump administration is doing. You know, threatening. You know, especially threatening of using the military forces and bullying the other countries and not respecting the territorial of sovereign countries. So basically, all the things that it's in the charters, Trump has been given no regard at all. So that's what just the one thing. So basically, the idea behind this one is that we have to make this international governance very inclusive. That's the key word, inclusive. That's actually the same idea as the checks and balance. Behind the checks and balance, it's inclusive. We try to mobilize people, more countries into an international governance system. And not just when we talk about the multilateral. We're not just talking about the US and China or the G2 or something. No, we truly talk about multilateral. Every country participating instead of sitting in the couch and watching whatever US doing, like watching the Hollywood movies. And that's not sustainable. That's not very good. You really want to motivate all the countries to be involved. And then there's two things I want to say the next time. The first one is that we try to do the um multilateral through bilateral. We mobilize the inclusive international governance through bilateral relationship. Because when it comes to a country versus another country, people just all of a sudden people like feel the motivated because you are trying to compete or debate and arguing with another country. And then second reason, the second important thing is that, what is the most biggest denominator? I would say, welfare laws, domestic welfare laws. That's what get people worried. Got that, regardless whether it's a dictator country or democracy countries, let's face it, we have three type of the countries. One is that the terrorism, terrorist countries, regimes. That's really the worst. And then we have a few truly functioning democracies, but then most of the people are one way or the other, like dictatorship or strongman regimes, those are the things. But you have to, every countries, all types of countries, we have to learn how to coexist peacefully. And then, so that's what every country afraid of having suffering from welfare loss, especially driven by the foreign countries. So that's why you have to you remember these two things, and then that's why my international mitigation system. That's how it works. Let's stop here.